Okay, welcome everybody to today's discussion on deep research AI, how advisors can offload the grunt work and focus on what matters. I'm here with Sean Bailey, editor-in-chief at Horsesmouth and the leader of Horsesmouth's advisor AI training workshops. We'll go ahead and put the link on the screen here where you can find out more about those AI advisor training workshops there. So, Sean, you've now been teaching advisors how to use AI for a while now, but I know that there's one story in particular that you think captures just how transformative this can be. You want to share it?
Yeah, and also not just transformative, but also like how things are um, changing and getting the argument for being engaged with AI is getting stronger and stronger every day. So there's this one advisor I've been working with, and he knew that I had been experimenting with something called deep research, and he said to me, "Hey, tomorrow morning, I have a referral coming in. It's literally a friend of a friend of a client, okay? And all I have is the person's name and the town that they live in. I don't have any other information." And I said, "Okay, well, let's use that as a test for this new deep research tool." Really, I should say tools, because this concept we'll talk about it is available in a number of locations in the AI world. But anyway, so let's just use this as a test. And he was basically getting ready to go in blind, and I used the deep research and was able in minutes, probably I think it took about 15, 20 minutes for this report to be run. And he had a complete picture of the business background of the prospect, of their philanthropic, uh, the philanthropic associations, and just like really a backgrounder really on the prospect, and he was able to walk into the meeting totally confident and prepared. And that's the power of some of the new AI tools that are coming along every day. We'll talk more about it here, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah. But so maybe we could start with, what's wrong with the way that advisors, usually prepare for meetings
Yeah,
like this?
right. Right. Well, I mean, there's two ways. One is that somebody can clear the time on their schedule or have somebody on their staff, do a deep dive, go over to LinkedIn, go into Google, drill down, get a bunch of links, scour a variety of web pages, attempt to spot on those web pages some useful information, maybe cutting and pasting it, maybe printing it out. And this is if you have the time to do this, right? But it can take multiple hours, and um, you still can be left with a lot of noise, a lot of information, but not any particular deep insights. Again, not without spending some time really digesting heavily all that research. So, that's the typical situation, I think, is that a lot of people get a small amount of information and go in and kind of wing it. Every now and then, if you have a whale of a prospect, you might clear the time and do that deeper Google and LinkedIn research. But it's a big cognitive load to go ahead and try and actually develop a highly useful dossier for a prospect meeting, which again, you don't really know, other than the friend of a friend referral in this case, you don't really know too much relating to what you're dealing with.
Okay, so how is deep research different? What makes it such a leap forward from just,
Yeah.
regular ChatGPT?
Right, right. Yeah. Well, I mean, one way to think about it is the difference between uh, you do a Google search and it gives you a stack of books, right? But you do a deep research and it gives you a book report, okay? And so, and that book re report will be informed by 20, 50, even 100 sources that have been looked at on the internet. And then all that information, the dots are connected, and it's put into an easily skimmable structure with citations, and it's kind of ready to use. So, that is what makes deep research different from a typical you know, Google search, right? And what's going on in the background is really interesting. And this is, another example of, how things are changing. ChatGPT, arrived on the world scene in November of 2022. So that was, will be coming up on 3 years this November, right? And it was a particular type of AI model. And since then, they have been changing, evolving, and we're starting to see the implementation of multi-step reasoning models. Okay, that's what these deep research can do that a simple Google search cannot. You have an interaction with it, and it will, the first thing it will do is it will create a research plan based on your prompt and the manner and the information you give it, whatever amount it is. It will then come back and propose to you, here's how I think we should go about developing this backgrounder, this dossier on this prospect. Okay. And so it comes back and it gives you the plan first, which you can then give it feedback on. And then tell it to proceed, and it does something else that's pretty amazing. It does autonomous web browsing. It's going out to all these different websites. It's doing searches, it's following the links, it's identifying key information. It's doing all the things that you would do over a 2 or 3 hour period. And instead, it's doing them in 20 or 30 minutes after the research is done. Okay. And that research can be, it can scour the internet, it can look at academic papers, it goes to news sites, industry reports and industry websites, and it filters out what it believes is the unreliable information to try and just give you a sort of narrow and fact-rich take on a backgrounder on the person you're interested in learning more about. And so then it takes that information and it loads it into kind of a report template. So it'll have a summary and there'll be maybe tables and charts and bullet points and subheads. So it's very easy for you to do that. And then on top of all that, it has links to to the various sources where it got this information from. So you're able to spend some time, cross verifying and making sure that the observations that you're seeing there are in fact correct. Because listen, right? We do Google searches. Look, there's a bunch of, it's the same with the AI. It does a great job, but you still want to keep your eye out for spurious information that's not going to be useful. But overall, that is what is amazing about deep research. It's literally like you have a research analyst that's going out and acting on your behalf and acting, in a very sort of human-like way in terms of doing the research.
And then in terms of the specific applications for advisors, where do you think this functionality, deep research, really shines?
Yeah, in any sort of big project that an advisor is dealing with. In a class recently, we had an advisor who was looking at a particular sub area of momentum investing, and he was wanting to learn more about it. And I can't remember the exact phrase, but it was a phrase I'd never heard of in 25 years. But I haven't spent much time looking at momentum investing necessarily. But we used that phrase and created a prompt, and it came back with a highly detailed explanation of this particular investment strategy. So, investments are one area for sure, right? Taxes and estate planning, right? More and more advisors recognize the need to offer tax guidance to their clients. And, additionally, guidance on estate planning, right? You're not an estate planner, you're not an accountant, but, in many respects, you're your client's CFO. And so you're needing to navigate these issues. And, sometimes somebody has a property in another state, or, there's multiple homes or whatever the case may be. And, so you might be using it for research on the inheritance tax or estate planning rules in a particular state where a client has some real estate or something like that. So, I mean, that's just an example, but tax and estate planning in general can be very helpful. in vendor due diligence, right? Advisors are looking at, their tech stack. There's new tools that are coming out all over the place all the time. There are new services that are being offered to help advisors with, the back office. And so I know advisors spend a fair amount of time when they're thinking and recognizing they need to acquire some sort of new software tool that they want to check out at a greater depth than what they're finding in a Google search on a particular vendor. And so you can do due diligence with these deep research tools. You can tell it, we're looking at this particular type of software, or we're looking at this very specific vendor. We have, there's a lot of things we like about it. There are a few things we don't like about it, and set the deep research task on the way to do a deeper account of what's really going on with that vendor in the marketplace. And you can get the deep research to really give you a detailed picture of the stability of this particular company, whatever the case may be, right? Another area is niche marketing, right? I think more and more advisors recognize that having a niche, within your business is a very smart move. We've done research on this a number of times over the years. The happiest, more successful financial advisors are the ones who actually have niches. And the thing about launching a niche is that it takes a fair amount of research, depending, but it takes a fair amount of research on the front end. And with these deep research tools, that amount of research time that you need to develop your own particular unique solutions to the problem that you're identifying people have in that niche, it can take quite a while, but the deep research now can collapse your research time so that once you're certain that you have a niche market you want to go after, you're going to be doing it and meeting with people much more quickly than ever before. Again, because you're able to leverage these AI tools, including deep research, right? And then the other example is prospect preparation, right? And again, sometimes people wing it, sometimes they don't. Maybe you don't want to be winging it, but you wing it more often than you should. Now you've got this deep research tool that even with just a small amount of information on the prospect can give you, some deep insights into who they are and what they may be interested in. So those are some examples.
Okay, great. And I imagine there's some advisors listening to you and they're starting to get a little worried. They may be thinking that, hey, this takes my expertise, my experience, my knowledge, and it makes it less important. What do you have to say to those advisors?
Yeah, I think it's actually the opposite. And this sort of thing sharpens the advisor's role because the tools like deep research just simply clear the way relating to the grunt work so that you can focus on the interpretation and the judgment and the building of trust. So uh, instead of flailing around on Google trying to gather some quick information before you go into the meeting with this friend of a friend prospect, instead you already have a deep research report on that prospect, and you can spend a few minutes looking at it, thinking about what kind of questions it's going to inform in your upcoming discovery meeting. And you're just going to be doing a much better job because you won't be winging it anymore. So that's, one example right there, right?
Okay, so if an advisor wants to get started using deep research tomorrow, what's the first step?
Well, I think, the first step is to, try it out with a small little experiment, and give it a specific prompt. The most important thing is, depending upon what the topic is, like, maybe you have some clients that are looking to go into, retirement community in a particular state, and you want to get some details on that. So what's important is that you ask the AI model to plan its research before it goes ahead and creates these deep research reports. So you can have a little back and forth and you can see how these reasoning models work, and it will prepare a plan and say, this is what I think I'm going to do. And you can see it right there on the screen. And you can say, yes, that's good, or you can modify it. So, starting off small like that is one thing I'd recommend for sure.
And then final thought, where is this heading, do you think?
Well, yeah, it is interesting, back in, the late 1990s, advisors needed to have as a baseline skill working with Excel. And then in the 2000s, we had an explosion of, the CRMs, right? And developing some skills around CRMs was, been a pretty critical skill of the last 10, 15 years or more. Um, and what's coming now is that in this next phase or next growth of the technology and the world of, being, what some sociologists call, knowledge worker, right? The new skill for everyone is going to be learning how to manage these semi-autonomous and autonomous AI agents. This is a very big thing, and it's really going to hit later this year and into next year. And so knowing how to use these agents that are like research analysts that will work on your beck and call, really, that becomes a critical thing. So the deep research is kind of like the first rung on this ladder of becoming exposed to how these reasoning models within AI can help you immensely. But you do need to spend a little bit of time learning how to do that. And when you practice that, you're kind of developing your own sort of muscle memory in terms of how to interact and engage and manage these AI agents, right? So it's not just your tool because you're not asking and doing, you're telling it to go do something, and it's going off and doing it and coming back. And so that is a sort of evolution of from where we started, 2 years ago, engaging AI. So, uh, and again, you're not going to be replaced by the AI model. You just need to learn how to manage them so you're getting maximum utility, maximum power from these models. And so, I guess I would leave it with, the observation that the deep research tool is a great way to start to leg into kind of what the future is going to be. And that's the future isn't using AI, it's going to be leading these AI tools, these AI agents to get done whatever is the top of your to-do list today, tomorrow, next week, whatever the case may be.
Okay, and so it's critical that you get the training now that you need to do this. And of course, we should mention that we do offer a series of workshops for advisors.
Definitely. Yep.
The AI powered financial advisor program. You can go to horsesmouth.com/AI to learn more about those. And if you are interested more on the deep research topic specifically, Sean has written an article. Get that back up there. Has written an article about it, what advisors need to know about deep research AI. You can go to horsesmouth.com underscore 3Q3L to read more about that.
Yeah, and
Sean, anything?
I just remind everybody like we've got the new AI class starting in I think it's like around October 18th, maybe. To check me on that. But if you register by October 3rd, you can save $200 for our next class. And so, get in now. It's this stuff is really amazing. Get in now. The trainings are great. Advisors love them. You're going to start getting huge benefit from it right off the bat. And I think, you can see here today with the deep research, that's like, that would have never, ever happened before. And now it's at your fingertips. You just need to know how to do the right things to get the right results.
Okay, great. We'll leave it there.
All
Thank you,
right.
everybody. Thank you, Sean. Thank